Hello everyone and welcome back to TowerGate. It is day 224, Tuesday, October the 17th, 2017. Thank you so much for tuning in. Well, we do have some TowerGate news today, some important news, but we'll go ahead and deal with the Las Vegas type news first, and then we'll move on to the standard TowerGate type information. So I left off my last video, video 223 from Monday, by asking the question, what's missing? Now, for those of you who didn't see the video, or for those of you who have forgotten, let me kind of back up and refresh your memory as to what I was referring to. I was referring to the 60 Minutes interview with Charlie Rose, where he was interviewing the 4 police officers who were the ones who got to the door, apparently blew the door with explosives, went into the room and saw the alleged gunman, identified now as Stephen Paddock, on the floor with blood coming out of his mouth and dead. So they're interviewing these 4 cops, and the interviewer has got them giving their story. So basically, as they're telling their story, they're saying, okay, so we're going up the stairwell and we're getting up pretty close to the 32nd floor, the floor we needed to be on, because we already knew that that's the floor the shooter was on. So they're getting pretty close to the floor where they need to be, and they can hear the automatic weapons fire. Then, just before they get to the floor, the 32nd floor, about 2 minutes prior to getting there, they hear the shooting stop. They say that they hear the automatic weapons fire. They hear the shooting stop. Very important point. Then they go up to the door and they see that the door has been sealed shut by, we assume, the alleged gunman, Stephen Paddock, or an accomplice, or someone has driven a steel sheet metal screw through the door with 2 pieces of metal to sort of seal the door. So they take a crowbar type instrument, and they pry the door open. Now, this is the story as they're telling it. They pry the door open and they get access to the floor. Now they're on the floor. They open the door and they're on the floor, and they look down the hall and they can see the door at the end of the hallway with that they said looked like Swiss cheese. Had been shot up with a bunch of bullets. They then went on to explain. Now, keep in mind, it's basically over 45, somewhere between 45 and 50 type minutes before they actually execute the blowing up the door and going in. But once they gain access to the hall, they say the shooting had stopped. They heard the automatic weapons fire. They get to the steel door that's been, sealed shut. They crank it open with a crowbar or some type of a bar. Then they gain access to the floor. Then, of course, they talk about, once they got their act together and came up with their plan, which was, literally 45 minutes, a little more than 45 minutes later, they actually go up and blow the door, go in and see the shooter. So I asked the question, what is missing from this story? What is missing? It dawned on me immediately as I was watching the interview. To me, what is missing is one more gunshot. If they heard the automatic weapons fire, they're approaching the door on the 32nd floor, then they hear the shooting stop. They did not say that they heard any more shots. Yet, when they go into the room, the man's laying there with a handgun next to him and apparently a wound to his mouth where he shot himself in the mouth or what have you. But they never ever reported hearing the shot. That is what is missing. The shot that killed the gunman. They heard the automatic weapons fire. They gain access to the floor. They go through the whole story, but they never tell us that they heard the shot that kills the gunman. They should have heard the shot that killed the gunman, because now all the shooting is stopped. There's no other shooting. Now, there may have been some fire alarms going off or something else, but still, a gunshot, if they're on that floor and a gun was discharged, you would hear it. And if you're a cop, you would know exactly what that sounds like. But they never talk about hearing the shot that had to be the shot. It would have been a single shot, we can assume. A single shot where the gunman kills himself. We're told the gunman killed himself, but no one actually saw him shoot himself. And apparently, according to the cops who had gained access to the floor, who told us that they heard the automatic weapons fire, they're a floor or two away, climbing up the steps. They hear the shots, the automatic weapons, then the automatic weapons fire stops. They go up another floor or two. Now they're at the 32nd floor. They hear no shots. They never ever talk about ever hearing the shot that was fired that would have killed the gunman. Never ever talk about the shot that was fired that killed the gunman. At some point, they should have heard the shot that killed the gunman, whether it was self-inflicted or someone else did it. Now they show the weapon laying right next to his head. It did not have a silencer on it. And of course we know a silencer doesn't silence the weapon anyway. It lowers the sound by about 20% in terms of decibels. Not very much. You still hear the gunshot. But we saw the weapon laying next to his head, which has been identified, I assume, as the weapon which he shot himself with. It's a handgun. Looks like some sort of a semi-auto. That's what's missing. They heard the automatic weapons fire. They approached the door. It's been sealed shut. They cranked the door open with some sort of a tool, a bar or something. They gain access to the floor. They go through this whole rigmarole. 45 minutes later or so, then they go into the room, blow the door. Never, ever do they talk about hearing the gun shot, which should have been the last shot they heard. A single shot, a single fired shot that would have been the shot of the gunman killing himself. They never talk about hearing that shot. Why not? Why did they not hear that shot? They should have heard that shot. They're on the floor. You would certainly hear that shot. They never talk about hearing the shot that killed the gunman. He certainly didn't shoot himself before. He was obviously didn't shoot himself before the automatic weapons fire was going on. He couldn't have killed himself and continued firing. Therefore, he must have shot himself after the automatic weapons fire stopped. And they say that they heard the automatic weapons fire and then it stopped. And then they got right to the 32nd floor shortly after. They said within 2 minutes of the shooting stopped, they were there at the steel door in the stairwell, finding it to be sealed. They cranked it open with a bar of some sort and gained access to the floor. They never talk about hearing the shot that killed the gunman, whether it was self-inflicted or someone else did it. They never talk about hearing the shot. It's very, very important. Very important. In the brief description of the autopsy, the sheriff only told us in the final press conference that there was an autopsy. The body was cremated. They sent the brain away to be examined, possibly even other things to be examined. But we know for sure they sent the brain to be examined. But he never gave us hardly any details of the actual autopsy. And of course, the toxicology has not come back yet. But it would have been one of the most important things that we need to know from the autopsy is what was the approximate time of death? What was the time of death? When was this guy shot? Where was he shot? Have they matched up the weapon and the round? They should certainly be able to do that. But the most important question here is what is missing? What is missing is these cops telling us that they heard the shot, the single shot that would have killed the gunman. They did not hear the shot. They're not talking about hearing the shot. They didn't mention that's a very important piece of information, you would think, and it would totally change the entire dynamic of the situation. Because if you're now there on the floor and all of a sudden you hear bang, you say to yourself, wow, a single gunshot. What do you think that means? I would be guessing at least 50-50 the guy just smoked himself. The guy just took himself out. He knows we're here. He knows it's over. He's just taking himself out. That's probably what we just heard. Single gunshot. Boom. Bang. Whatever. Very interesting question. Another very interesting question, as I listened to these guys telling their story, they described the fact that once they got in the door and got in the hallway, that they looked down the hallway and they could see the door. Then they talk about the fact that they went through this on this floor to various rooms where there were hotel guests, and they knocked on those doors and they evacuated the hotel guests. That's very shocking. I'm surprised they would do that, knowing good and well that the shooter had fired down the hallway before, 200 rounds worth. As far as they knew, he was still alive. Why would they have those people? Why would they tell the other guests in the rooms to come on out? Let's go down the hallway and get you out of here. Especially since they had already told us that they shut down the elevators. Did they have them all go down the stairwells? Why would you even ask them to do that? You would knock on the door and go, hey, I'm a cop. Here's my badge. There's a gunman on this floor. We have a police emergency. Whatever you do, do not come out of your room until we give you the all clear. Stay in your room. Keep the door locked. Don't open it for anybody other than a cop. Stay low. Stay down. Shh. Keep tuned to your TV. Whatever. But this is the situation. That's what you would do. You wouldn't you wouldn't bring these people in the hallway, but that's exactly what they said they did. They went and got the other hotel guests on the floor evacuated. I don't know why they would do that. When they got an active shooter, they're evacuating people off the floor. That doesn't make any sense. Here's something else that doesn't make any sense. Now that we know that there were other hotel guests on that floor, did anybody hear about any of those hotel guests on the floor making a phone call to the cops? Making a phone call down to the front desk? Hey, I don't know what's going on up here, but I'm a guest up here on the 32nd floor. Sounds like there's somebody out here lighting off a lot of firecrackers on the floor, or maybe it's a guy out here firing a semi-automatic weapon or something. Yeah, it's just letting you know there's something going on up here on the 32nd floor. No. Apparently, not a single hotel guest on that floor made any phone call whatsoever to the hotel desk or to the cops to let them know that something was going on. Now, if I'm a hotel guest and I hear what sounds something like that, I'm probably going to open up the door, peek my head out and go, what the hell's going on? You know, that's the first thing people would do. It's natural curiosity. Open the door. What the hell's going on? I don't know. Turn on the TV. Get on your cell phone. Pick up the phone and call the front desk. Pick up the phone and call the cops. Do something. But we're led to believe that those people, the guests on that floor, did nothing. They didn't call the cops. They didn't call the front desk. If they had seen the news coverage, they probably would have ran out in the hallway screaming, heading for the elevator. They apparently had no interest. An entire floor full of people on the same floor as the shooter. He's fired off 800 to 1,000 rounds of semi-automatic weapons fire. And none of the guests on the floor seem to be concerned, alarmed, or even fucking amused. Nothing. No big deal. Hey, this is great. Vegas is great, man. You got freaking automatic weapons fire going off on the hotel floor. Wow, this is exciting stuff. Maybe it's an old Western someone's watching. This is the craziest damn story. None of these things make sense. They didn't hear the gunshot. They should have heard the gunshot. None of the hotel guests apparently were even remotely alarmed about the fact that they had someone on the floor that they were staying on opening up with automatic weapons. They apparently weren't watching TV. They apparently weren't on their phones, which people are always on their phones. Always. Wouldn't have come across their phone screen, hey, there's a shooting in Las Vegas. And it's like, wow, that just so happens I'm in Las Vegas. Wow, and it's at the Mandalay Bay Hotel? Wow, that's exactly where I'm at. Hey, and they're on the 32nd floor. Hey, that's exactly where I'm at. Do you think that might be that sound that we're hearing? Out in the hall, honey? Let me stick my head out the door and see what's going on. Nope, nobody had any interest. None whatsoever. None. No phone calls. Oh, but it gets worse. We're finding out now, it's being reported, that by ABC News, according to a source, that even after the maintenance engineer who discovered Jesus the hero laying in the hallway with a hole in his leg, that even after he picked up the phone, and we've heard this phone call now, I've now heard it, the phone call made by this maintenance engineer down to the front desk, telling him, "Yeah, this is a maintenance engineer. I'm up here on the 32nd floor. One of the security guards has been shot in the leg. There's a shooter up here, somebody with a gun firing shots up here. You should probably call the police." Apparently, after that phone call was made from that maintenance engineer down to the front desk, according to ABC News source, and I'm not sure who that is, that phone call did not provoke the Hotel Mandalay to contact the police. Apparently, they didn't. Their own maintenance person calls them and says, "Yeah, one of our security guards is shot in the leg. I'm standing here. We're taking on automatic weapons fire. There's a shooter up here on the floor. You may want to call the cops." And the person on the other end of the phone down at the front desk goes, "Okay, thanks." Oh, well, there's a shooter up on the 32nd floor firing automatic weapons. One of our security guys is down. Think we should call the cops? Nah, screw it. I'm going on break. You know, no big deal. This is a great story. I love this fucking story. I love this story. It's just full of mystery, isn't it? None of this makes any sense. This is completely the opposite of how humans react when they hear automatic weapons fire on the hotel floor they're staying in. It's completely the opposite of the way people act. Think about it. You're sitting there on switchboard duty at the hotel. One of your guys calls down to the front desk and says, "Yeah, one of our guys just got shot. We're up on the 32nd floor. We're taking automatic weapons fire. Call the cops." And you go, "Okay, thanks." And then, "Oh, well, what do I do now? Oh, welcome to the hotel, ma'am. Will that be 2 or 4? I mean, this is just, man, oh man. This is just not making any sense. And since we're not making any sense, let's go to the next item, which doesn't make any sense. And that is our good friend, the hero, who's now not so much of a hero because it turns out he didn't interrupt the shooter, but we'll talk about him anyway as the hero, Jesus Campos. Well, we were talking about everybody wanting to know what the hell happened to Jesus. He disappeared. Well, now we're getting more of the story, okay? So apparently he was being presented with an award by his union. So he was there with his president of his union that he belongs to and 2 other people. They were preparing to go out into a media room, and apparently this was actually at a place which is adjoined with the local news TV station. There's a local TV station, and apparently they have some sort of a conference or banquet room or something, and they were actually in this banquet room right next to where he was going to be doing his TV interviews for 5 national television interviews, including Sean Hannity. So they've just given him this award, and after they give him this award, they go into another room. It's a smaller room. They're in there, and then when they come out for the hero, Jesus, to come out and speak to the media, of which there's about 24 reporters in this media room, he disappears. So they all walk into the media room and say, "Okay, now where's Jesus? Where is he?" And the media's there. They got their cameras. They got everything there. Everybody's there. The president of the union's there. He's like, "Okay, where's Jesus? Well, where'd he go? He's gone." Okay, so now we find out the next day that the union president says that he was told by text. He was texted and told, Jesus has gone to a clinic. Okay, so he went to a clinic. And apparently he went to this clinic, but they didn't tell this union president which clinic. And then it appears that since he went to this clinic, allegedly, that he is now no longer at the clinic and he's somewhere else, and no one knows where he's at again. So he's lost again. Jesus is now lost 2 times. Now, Fox News, of course, have been trying to follow up on that and try to track him down. So they contacted this union president who told them what I just told you. And they said, "Oh, okay, so he went to a clinic." Well, we assume that was probably in Vegas. So Fox News called every clinic and emergency care facility, urgent care facility in Las Vegas, of which I understand it was about 40. They called them all. Every one of them said, "No, we haven't seen Jesus. He hasn't been here. We haven't treated him. Don't know where he's at. Don't know." And so now he's apparently missing again. So the hero is not available for comment. Will we ever hear from the hero again? Will Jesus ever be heard from again? Is he just going to disappear into the ether and we never hear from the hero, Jesus, again? Jesus is gone. Poof, like Casper, disappeared into the realm, into the friendly skies, into the ether, into the space, up with his Father in heaven. God knows where he is, and he's probably the only one who knows where his son is. Where is Jesus? But I can tell you one thing, his family's under a gag order, and I can assure you he is too. He's somewhere under serious police protection, being clammed up. He might be that guy that's at the other hotel up on the penthouse under police protection. And he probably never went to a clinic, although I understand he's still got a bullet in his leg. So, that is the latest on the craziness going on with Las Vegas, and that is what's missing. The description and the account of the police officers telling us about the single gunshot that they should have heard that they did not mention. That's a very major detail, and it would have affected everything they did. It's also very interesting that they were on that stairwell for 45 minutes before entering the room. They say that they went and got the hotel guest out, but they never ever talk about getting any reinforcements. Apparently it was just them four that went in. How is it possible that after they've identified exactly where the shooter is, these four guys are already up there? How is it possible that after 45 minutes they don't have 50 cops up there on that floor ready to go in? It's just these four guys. After 45 minutes you can't get some help up there? None of this makes any sense. Let's move on. Well, Austria has just elected what many people in Austria are calling the young Donald Trump. Sebastian Kurz is now the new chancellor of Austria. He is heavily against the EU immigration policy. He's a conservative. He is a conservative. Let me say that again. We're talking about Europe here. He is a 31-year-old conservative. Is now the new chancellor of Austria. I'm telling you, you're going to see the eastern part of Europe form a bloc. Poland, Austria, Hungary, the Czech Republic. They're all going to form together. They are going to be the first dominoes to fall in the collapse of the EU, which is already underway. These are the dominoes lining up. Because now you have Hungary, Poland, the Czech Republic, and now Austria with leaders who are seriously opposed to the EU immigration and migration policy, as well as other policies, I might add. These are more conservative type people, not technocrats and socialists and communists. So, things are definitely changing. And as I told you, Trump was going to change the world. This is how he's doing it. Let's not forget Marie Le Pen. She gave it a pretty strong run. Let's not forget the election in Germany and Merkel's party taking a huge beating, and even Merkel now talking about, and Macron, both talking about now that they're going to have to do something about immigration. Both of them are backtracking because they see what's coming. They know what's coming. The Rotten Reverend has now canceled the remainder of her UK Hillary What Happened book tour. Now, she's blaming it on the fact that she broke her toe. Maybe she did. Or maybe it's a line of BS. I don't know. I don't care. But what we do know is that the first two major public appearances that she did, she got heckled and booed loudly. Heckled and booed loudly. She also got challenged by two different interviewers on things that she said. She's finding that the media in the UK is not just giving her the free pass like she gets here in the US. They're finding that apparently security over in the UK doesn't keep protesters away like they do here. When Hillary comes here to give a press conference or go on TV, she rolls up with 6 or 7 black limousine SUVs with armed bodyguards, and they make sure that no protesters or anyone anti-Hillary gets anywhere near her. She doesn't stop and speak to the public on the street. They get her right in and right out. But over in the UK, she's facing a different situation. So she's at this one place, a school. They're giving her an honorary doctorate. And as they're giving her her honorary doctorate, she's being booed and called a fascist getting heckled badly. I think the Rotten Reverend canceled her book tour because it ain't going so well. She doesn't like getting booed and heckled. So she's out of there. The Rotten Reverend. And there's much more on the Rotten Reverend. I just can't stomach any more of her today. Finally, a story we've been covering here for a very long time that really goes right to the heart of TowerGate. And we now have absolute 100% confirmation. The story by Chuck Ross of the Daily Caller. If you want to read it for yourself, go to the Daily Caller and you'll see it posted. Chuck Ross, great reporter. He's all over the surveillance. He's all over all this. This guy's a hard charger. He's a good journalist. Like Chuck Ross. He's now reporting that the FBI is now confirming that Comey drafted the Comey statement on the Clinton email probe months before the investigation ended. Let me say that one more time. The FBI is now confirming that the former dishonorable FBI director James Comey drafted the statement exonerating Hillary Clinton on the Clinton email probe months before the investigation ended. Those emails are now verified. What does that mean? What does that mean? Well, what it means is that the entire investigation was never an investigation at all. It was never an investigation. So what should that do if you are the head of the Department of Justice and you're Jeff Sessions? Well, Attorney General Sessions should look at that and go, well, the FBI is now, and he probably already knew this, the FBI is now confirming that Comey definitely drafted a statement ending the the Clinton probe. It was never really an investigation. He killed this thing a long time ago before the investigation was even halfway complete, before hardly 22 witnesses, including the Rotten Reverend herself, had even been interviewed, including 3 or 4 of the key witnesses, which means that they actually gave immunity to 3 of these witnesses after the fact, after he did this, which is even more incriminating. What this tells you is you, number one, have a major, major, major case of obstruction of justice by the FBI director himself. And all of those, which would include the assistant FBI director, McCabe, who's still there at his position. He's still the assistant FBI director. He should be taken away in handcuffs right now, right along with Comey. Clearly, this proves that their total culpability in a crime. It's called obstruction of justice, and many other probably smaller crimes associated with that. But it should tell the Attorney General that there was no real investigation into the Rotten Reverend's illegal server and her mishandling of classified information on hundreds, if not thousands of occasions, the illegal transfer and movement of classified information on an illegal server, the transfer of information across communication lines using an illegal BlackBerry, which she was told not to use, even while in foreign countries such as Russia and China. There are multiple violations that were being investigated in this case. It wasn't just an email here and an email there, and a server here and a server there, and a BleachBit job here and a cloud server there. No. There's much more that was supposed to be involved in this investigation. The Attorney General should immediately come to the conclusion that there was no investigation, that there was a massive cover-up, there was massive obstruction of justice, interfering with the criminal investigation, and many other charges probably. Why Comey is not already in leg chains and handcuffs, I do not know, including Mr. McCabe. And certainly there had to be people at the Justice Department who were involved in this as well. So obviously, the first thing is you need to file the charges. I don't know what they're waiting for. But the second thing, the conclusion that you should draw is the Attorney General that there was no real investigation, which means he should immediately launch a real investigation against the Rotten Reverend for violations of the Espionage Act, for the mishandling of classified information, for violating government rules, by going outside the freedom of information system, whereby all government business should be on a government server. Therefore, it's subject to FOIA. This is one reason why Clinton set up the whole system, was to avoid that. So they need to immediately arrest the perps, of which we know the first two right off the top of the bat. We know are Comey and McCabe, and there's others. And immediately following that, they should announce that they are launching a brand new investigation, a real investigation of the multiple crimes committed by the Rotten Reverend with her homebrew server, her mishandling of classified information, her using devices not approved outside of a SCIF in foreign territory, in foreign countries where her communications were probably intercepted. Don't forget, 23 of these programs were SAP, way above top secret, special access programs. Unbelievable. If the Attorney General, based on this confirmation by the FBI, if he does not launch an actual investigation, because this tells us there was not one, if he does not launch an actual investigation, I cannot imagine how he can remain in his position. I cannot imagine how members of Congress, because there are a few out there that are honest and are trying to get to the truth, I can't imagine. I haven't heard Jim Jordan's reaction to this. I haven't heard Rand Paul's reaction to this. I haven't heard anyone else's reaction who's not part of the Freedom Caucus. But this should immediately, without doubt, without any doubt, call for an immediate and real investigation. And it should also call for the immediate arrest of James Comey and Andrew McCabe while they investigate who else was involved. And there had to be people with the Justice Department involved as well, including Comey's lawyer at the FBI. If this does not generate a real, and I don't even want to say a new investigation, I'm going to say a real investigation, then I don't know what to say at this point. I mean, you can only say that we now have a completely lawless government. Completely lawless. Not to mention this other little scheme that they have been running. Still many, many questions. And that's my question. What's missing? No description or acknowledgement of hearing the gunshot that killed the gunman, even though they were on the floor and should have heard it. Not a peep. Very interesting. Not a single person on that floor calls to report that there's a gunman on the floor. I thought maybe he was the only guest on the floor. Apparently there was other guests on that floor. Apparently not a one of them thought about picking up the phone and calling the cops at the hotel. They just rode the whole thing out. No big deal. Somebody shooting automatic weapons on the floor. No biggie. Nobody called. When the maintenance man called down and told the hotel desk clerk that there was a shooter on the floor, that didn't generate a call to the police. That's what we're being told. Jesus. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll see you guys tomorrow night. Bye.